Good morning. It's what is it? Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. It's 2:32 a.m. and I'm on my way to the gym right now. I've been lately, a lot of my the criteria on how I choose to handle things has been coming from the standpoint of what would my 80-year-old self do in this situation. You know, what would if I was at 80 years old and I was reflecting back on my life and decisions I had made, and mind you, trying to come at life from a perspective that you've never seen before, like one of an 80-year-old, is damn near impossible. But if an 80-year-old is looking and saying, money don't matter to me, cars don't matter to me, because you ever seen an old person I'm serious, you ever seen an old person in a really nice car? You just be like, I sure hope you was driving that nice car your whole life, because if you had to wait till you were 60 to get that car, you done missed out on a lot of things, right? I think that way, at least. I think that way. Like, boy, you sure would have looked cooler in that car if you was younger. But nevertheless, trying to make decisions based on what would the older version of me do. Considering at 80, what do you really need? What becomes really important at 80? I would have to say time. How you spend each day. Time. So when I go to make a decision now, I'm thinking, if it won't benefit me when I'm 80, why would I do it now? And that's a hard concept to wrap your mind around. But I remember this story, and it always stuck with me because it's so crazy. My stepmother working at I don't know, it might have been a convalescent home, it might have been some type of where people are, kind of like a hospice. And she said this man would just cry. And she didn't know why. Or maybe her reason for why the man was crying was different than my interpretation of the story. My interpretation of the story led me to believe that the man was crying because of regret. And that now all he had to look forward to was death. You see, because we can't slow time down, we can't reverse it, we can't do it over. Today is the day that we have. There won't be another one like this. We must make the best of it because we only have so many of them. It is the most precious commodity that we own. It is the most precious commodity that we have, which is time, because no 2 days are alike. And so in terms of, how I nurture my relationships and who I'm around and what I do and how I spend my money and how I react to my kids and how how I see life, it's really me just going and trying to come from an older perspective of who I am, looking back and saying, why did I do that? That benefited me none at this later stage of life that I'm in. So why did I do it? I don't want money just to have money. I want money to enjoy life. I want money to be able to make sure my kids are straight. The Bible says a wise man leaves his children's an inheritance. Money isn't everything, but let me know how life treats you without it. And so now this looking and making decisions based on the older me perspective, yeah, it's not a perfected idea. It's not, because I'm not 80. I've never been 80. I couldn't tell you how I would think if I was 80. But if that man truly was sitting inside of that home just crying every day because he was living in regret about the way his life had turned out, and the inevitable was simply death waiting to happen. I mean, because literally when you get to that point, I mean, my grandmother, she looked like she was probably going to outlive everybody. And then one day, God just called her home. So when you get an age, you don't know. You don't know. What day will my eyes open? Will today be the day? And so with putting that together, I can assume that my needs when I'm 80 are not going to look anything like they do now. Or my needs now are not going to look like anything when I'm 80. And the things that I put emphasis on, I would even venture to say that they weren't that important. They weren't that serious. So it's important to put perspective on everything in terms of the decisions that you make today, because the decisions you make today will affect your tomorrow. And if you don't believe me, go pick the brain of somebody who is older. I guarantee they tell you what I thought was important really wasn't that important. But the wise man leaves his children's children an inheritance. So don't think that you don't have a job to do. Just understand some of the things that you put so much priority on, like working around the clock. I run my own business. I don't work around the clock. I got kids. I got a wife. I got a family. They need me too. So I have to be smart with the time and the money that I have. And that's how you stay well-rounded.